Chenopodium album. Nickname for this plant is the same as one of its common names because it is so very descriptive of the plant, and that is goosefoot. Poisonous lookalikes. Some species of this plant that have a resinous smell and bad taste can be somewhat toxic, and resinous is tarry, plastic-like or chemical-like smell. This is part 1, and in part 2 I'll be sharing a mnemonic or memory technique to help you commit to memory the most distinguishing characteristics of this plant. Be sure to watch all of part 1 so that part 2 is understandable. It is an erect plant, usually branched. It tapers gradually toward the top, so more broad on the bottom. And the size of this plant depends on the fertility of the soil. It grows from 1 to 6 feet tall, but usually it's just around 3 feet tall. The flowers of seed pods grow in dense clusters, and these cluster spikes can be up to 8 inches in length, but are usually about half that size, 4 inches. Figure B shows us an outline of the most bottom leaves, which bear the most resemblance to a goosefoot. The leaves are irregularly toothed or lobed, and the teeth point toward the top of the leaf, just as the toes of a goosefoot point toward the top of the goose's foot. This figure here shows us how the plant tapers toward the top. It illustrates the dense seed or flower clusters, seed pod clusters, flower clusters. Again, can grow up to 8 inches in length, but are usually about just 4 inches in length. Notice how they resemble a cluster of peas, like frozen peas stuck together. That is important to note as we get to the mnemonic. Just like peas, these flowers or seed pods have no stems. They are attached directly to the branches. Goosefoot has a taproot. The taproot is short and stout. The seeds are round, they are flat, and they have a thin membrane on the outside which is difficult to remove. Figure C illustrates a younger leaf that is closest or closer to the top. The younger leaves toward the top are smaller, they are more narrow, and can be lance shaped. The lobes or teeth also point toward the top. The margins or edges of these leaves can be somewhat wavy. The flowers or seed pods have a mealy white exterior. Notice that these leaves near the top, more narrow, somewhat lance-shaped. You see the wavy outline here on this leaf. The leaves can grow up to 5 inches long and 3 inches wide. The leaf stalks are slender and are about half the length of the leaf it supports. This is a picture of a younger stem. The younger stems bear tiny white hairs. They are ribbed or grooved longitudinally. This picture also shows us an example of the mealy white exterior of the flowers or seed pods. This too is a picture of a younger leaf with the mealy white exterior, ribbed. Also notice the seed pods in the flowers again with the mealy white exterior. This is an older stem. It loses the tiny white hairs and mealy white exterior with maturity. The stems are light green or variably colored, from a reddish to light blue-green to striped with purplish colors. Yet it is still ribbed or grooved. It is stout. The leaves have a waxy coating. It is referred to as unwettable. Has somewhat of a clammy texture. This picture shows us the underside of the leaves. They bear a mealy white texture underneath. The younger leaves have this texture, or have a tendency to have this texture on the top and the bottom. But all the leaves have this texture on the underside at least. This is a picture of the mealy white texture on the top side. This is a top side leaf, bottom side. The leaves can bear purplish or reddish outline or colors. The leaf here on the top would represent one of the more bottommost leaves, while these leaves would represent those more narrow, elongated, lance-shaped leaves toward the top. Notice the irregular teeth. These are slightly toothed or lobed. The teeth or lobes still point toward the top. A very good picture demonstrating or illustrating the mealy white exterior of each flower or seed pod. Notice how they are directly attached to the stem. When they are open, the stamen are much more apparent. There are 5. The anthers atop each stamen are yellow. They are star-shaped. There are 5 individual sepals together. They are referred to as a calyx. The sepals, or the lobes, they curl inward and wrap around the seed, and more or less obscuring the seed from view. The seeds are tiny, and they lie horizontally in reference to the flower or seed pod. Mealy white exterior. This is a close-up picture of a seed pod that is open. It has already released the seed. Yellow anthers. In the mnemonic in part 2, these 5 stamen or star shape will be associated with the 5 fingers of your hand. These flowers or seed pods are approximately 1/10 of an inch wide. How much they resemble frozen peas. Frozen peas will be referenced in the mnemonic coming up in part 2 to help you commit to memory this plant. The edible parts of goosefoot are the leaves and the seeds. To learn how to prepare these parts, visit survivalplantsmemorycourse.com and click on Chypodium album through the Index of Plants link and find methods of preparation on the fact sheet. This has been part 1. Again, in part 2, I'll be sharing a mnemonic or memory technique to help you commit to memory the most distinguishing characteristics of this plant. Thank you for watching.